Entrepreneurially Thinking is a presentation of BioSTL and CET, Center for Emerging Technologies, with Rare Gem Productions, changing the way you view new ventures, including you on the pathway to success with your business in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. Here's your hosts, Cheryl and Christy. Now let's get thinking entrepreneurially.
Welcome back to the Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. Our goal is to ignite your entrepreneurial mindset and create pathways for business success in the St. Louis marketplace and beyond. I'm Christy-Maxfield.
And I'm Dr. Cheryl-Watkins-Moore, lead for BioSTL's Inclusion and Bioscience initiative here in St. Louis. Hey, girl.
Hi. You've been really
back.
busy lately.
Oh, it's been crazy.
You're planning like 5 events?
Ooh, and they're all going to be fantabulous.
So we have what? Vision in fall?
And we have, I'm so happy to announce, we've got our keynote speaker locked and loaded. Miss Arlen Hamilton. If you guys don't know who she is a vibrant African-American woman who has a really rich history. She was homeless 2 years ago.
And now she
leads a Backstage Capital Venture Fund where she is supporting people of color and women in investing in tech.
Yes, and specifically also as well LGBTQ.
Yes.
Because as a LGBTQ African-American woman herself, that's a really important thing. So I'm going to geek out and do all sorts of fangirl stuff when she comes. So just... I'm warning you right now. I'm really excited.
We are really excited to be able to bring her here to St. Louis. So everybody listening, mark your calendars, October 19th. Full day, Vision 2018 on UMSL's campus.
And this is one of those great things that our founding sponsors, BioSTL and CET, are responsible for. They work together really. Cheryl, of course, is the lead, but she rallies all of the collective capacity and support of our community to do things like the Vision Symposium and to bring folks like Arlen to town. So we couldn't be happier that they're supporting the podcast and that they continue to do amazing things here in our St. Louis community. So check out our sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring, please let us know because we'd love to add you to the lineup as well.
Absolutely.
And of course, as we have new episodes and new guests each week, we hope that you will share the podcast out, subscribe, and get your friends to get involved as well. You can find us on iTunes, Spreaker, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Wherever you are, we want to be.
All right. So where are we today?
Well, I'm going to tease this out.
You are?
Yes. This gentleman, he takes a stand for community involvement, not only in the neighborhood where he lives, but the community at large. His maxim is control your own narrative. That is so important. In that narrative is a conversation about race, equity, and economic empowerment, which is important for all of us to be involved in that conversation, right?
Absolutely.
So what better way to have deep and meaningful conversation and exchange than over a cup of coffee?
I'm fond of a cup of coffee.
Oh, yes. I'm fond of chai latte, too.
To each their own.
Our guest today has created the space for courageous conversations as well as coffee and tea and chai latte.
Equal opportunity.
Right. He's also created a space for underrepresented voices and unspoken dialogue to be heard. When we come back, we will be speaking with entrepreneur, husband, father, and newly elected first ever African-American member of the St. Louis Clayton-School-District Board of Education. He's also a good friend of mine, and I know his family well, Jason Wilson. He is in studio with us today, so hey, you all better stay listening.
CET, the Center for Emerging Technologies, is a proud founding sponsor of this Entrepreneurially Thinking podcast. We want you to know all about the great things they are up to. Square One offers 2 training options. Square One Ignite, a 4-week program created to help founders quick start their business model validation process. Or Square One Boot Camp, an in-depth 10-week, 50-hour program that combines formal instruction with hands-on learning, networking, and mentoring. To learn more about Square One Boot Camp or Square One Ignite, visit CETSTL.com. And for your renewed and continuing support, CET, we say thank you.
My name is Jason Wilson from St. Louis, Missouri. I own Northwest Coffee. Being an entrepreneur means to me is doing something better than what the competition is doing, right? Or creating something that's slightly different and noticeably different, right? Although slightly, that people want from you. Product, services, or whatever the case may be, and having independence in that process. But that's what being entrepreneurial is you take away less of some of those corporate shenanigans that take place. It's you now. You're the corporate shenanigan. You can control it a lot better, and once again, create a product that's scalable or sustainable. But for me, I want to build communities. I also want to be rich too, and have independence in the process.
So as Cheryl said, our guest today is Jason Wilson, owner of Northwest Coffee Roasting and a newly minted Clayton School District Board of Education member. So Jason, I know you're really busy, and we couldn't be happier to have you in studio with us today. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for asking me to be here. I appreciate that.
Well, I probably played email tag with Jason. I certainly don't know him the way Cheryl does. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we'll be friends sooner rather than later. But I have been a patron. So tell us, sir, how did you long before becoming the newly minted Clayton board member, you've been doing business, running business, and being an entrepreneur here in St. Louis. So tell us how you got there.
Well, before I got into coffee, I started this company called Applied Pressure Washing. And I saw the concept when I was in Houston, Texas. My buddy's dad was doing the same thing in Dallas. Mm-hmm. And what that was, car cleaning, right? Mm-hmm. Fleet vehicle cleaning, right? So fleets of vehicles like Ameren UE, for example, or like UPS or dealership lots.
So you weren't running cars in off the street.
No,
people weren't coming to you and say, "Hey, can you wash my car?"
Right, right. But that's not a bad business, but it's actually a pretty good model. But the model we had was we were volume based, so we had vehicles on the road that would go out and they were fully equipped with hoses and tanks of water and soap. Everything you need to wash cars on location. And because
you started with, I know the story. You started with one truck.
Yeah, we had one truck. It was an old Chevy, Chevy truck. It was a van, as a matter of fact. It was a van, and didn't run very well. but that's how you start, right? So the good thing is,
you had a vision.
Barriers to entry are low, right? In terms of equipment wise, the rest is getting the people to work for you, and then the main thing is developing processes, right, and making sure you can make it so you're efficient. So I did that for a while. It's the car cleaning business, and we were able to do it so that we made about $800 to $1 million a year.
Nice.
For like 3 years.
But you brought on more people.
Brought more people in. I mean, initially.
Put the processes in place.
Yeah, initially it was terrible. It was like we did a car lot, for example, of 100 ccars. It took like 8 hours, and I was like, "This is not going to work. You can't make money on
cost
that.
benefit analysis."
Right. $1.50 a car. It wasn't working.
That's not in the profit margin
right
here. Right?
But then we were able to. I developed some processes on how to wipe a car down. Right. So it's more technical than one could imagine. Right. But we got it down to a science where we can wipe a car down with a chamois in about 30 seconds to 45.
Wow.
Yeah. So you can knock out in a day's time, one truck, a group of 3 guys can knock out 550, 600 cars, sometimes 700 cars in a day.
Wow.
And this is just exterior, guys. So this is not interior. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is fleet cleaning once again. It's fleet cleaning, and these cars are standing still. So it's not like you're getting a road grime on there. It's really just like dry dust, soot that dries up, gets wet, dries up, and then kind of becomes complicated for the vehicle. Right. But we come along with our spraying techniques and our chamois that we can really, really get the car clean and make it stand tall.
So after you master that, why switch to coffee?
Right. So we did that for a while, and right around 2005. So I started in 2002. 2005 is when I started to see this great decline in revenue. For banks giving out loans at cheap rates. I saw dealerships struggling to get money, so there was 0% interest financing on cars that had just hit that had been on the lot since the prior year.
Okay.
So I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
You saw it coming.
Yeah, it's like these are brand new cars, brand new models, and it's July. And the new ones are coming in September for the next year. And with this 0% financing, so you got these new model vehicles with these old vehicles that hadn't been driven yet. They're still brand new, essentially.
They weren't moving.
Yeah, so I was like, 0% financing. This isn't looking too good economically. What's
they're trying to give the car away.
Right, essentially. And so what I did was I started to hedge my bets a little bit. I said, let me get my MBA from WashU.
I was going to say, that's at the time you went back to school, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I wanted to understand like what was going on, what's the future look like for me, why am I good at this, why am I not good at these things.
Right.
So I started to do that, and throughout that process, from 05 to 08, 06 to 08 is when I went to business school at WashU, executive MBA Olin School of Business. I saw the decline of our banks. I saw AIG decline. I saw credit default swaps, but no one knew what that was. I saw all this stuff, the Bear Stearns, all these things falling apart. I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Right.
So I was like, damn, like what can I get into next? You know what I'm saying? And
you were married by that time?
Oh, I was married in 06. 06. 06.
So that was a discussion I'm sure you had to have with your wife.
Yeah, I mean, it was a discussion more like, because Shanti's, she's really, her undergrad was finance. So
she saw the writing on the wall too.
Yeah, she knew it. She knew what was going on. She knows I'm a good guy. I mean, let's just start there.
Yes.
I'm a good dude. All those things that are important for a relationship, I am those things. And she is for me.
Yes.
So when failure strikes, that's not going to make us get divorced,
Right.
But it's not. But it does. It's challenging.
It makes you have some hard conversations.
Right. Yeah. It's challenging.
Right?
Yeah. You get frustrated because that's your best friend. And she's going to challenge you, or your spouse is going to challenge you. She challenged me on a lot of stuff. So I had to start thinking about what's the next move. So I wasn't even impacted yet by an 06. I was actually getting good returns.
This is on the car wash business.
We were getting money. So we were doing pretty good. But 07, 08,
that was when
rough.
the depression started. The recession, depression.
I saw every day you saw the market drop. I mean, it was like no end to the market just dropping. Every day just dropping. And banks weren't loaning any money. Long story short, Barack Obama, our fantastic president, who I love a lot.
Yes.
Who I miss a lot.
I think they're shared.
Right.
We share that.
The room feels it.
So his team of folk, man, put together a really good plan, right? And one thing that came out of it was...
to save the car industry?
Yeah, I can't think of the name.
Yes.
Cash or clunkers, right.
Yeah.
So they would take used cars, right? And at this time, I was diversifying. I created this high-end detail shop where I had cigars and serving wine in there, so folks would come in and just chill and get their car clean. Yeah,
I need to have. I didn't know you then.
Yeah, it wasn't really great because I didn't have a lot of money, but it was cool. It was no one else was doing it at the time.
Right, differentiate.
Yeah, so but it wasn't as dope as I wanted it to be. But it was fly. We were doing it, and but so a large part of my community that was coming in, my customer base was used vehicles. So people were like taking advantage of this 0% low interest rate, and they were going to give you cash on your car.
Right.
So you didn't have to put anything down and pay anything for a while.
Wow.
For cash or clunker. So, but it killed my business because getting a detail wasn't really, wasn't as important anymore.
Right.
And dealerships too, right? So they would get the cars, and they couldn't sell them. They had to kill the cars.
Wow.
That was the thing they had. So they poured like concrete into the engine block.
Wow.
Of cars that were actually could still run.
So they could get reimbursed off of that, right?
Exactly.
Because otherwise it sits on their P&L.
Right. Well, it's a government issued check.
Right.
So they were like, it's not no double dipping in this. You gotta kill the car.
Right.
So they killed the car.
Wow.
And so it was marginally good for the dealership because it was trying to.
We gave them some opportunity to make some profit, right?
Well, it was trying to save the dealerships from declining.
Sure.
You had to. This is technical, but dealerships had to pay a fee to have those cars from Ford, for example, or GM on the lot, and you got like 500 units on the lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money
That's
each month.
right, tied up
when you're not
sitting
getting
there.
anything in. Right. So
it's like consignment.
Right. So it was supposed to like make you break even slowly, you know, until the market subsided. Anyways, long story short, I got out of that business. I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here, and because car washing became tertiary on your list if you were a corporation.
Right.
And so graduating from business school, going through that process, I went to China. Wow. 2007, 8. And I saw you know, people drinking coffee over there, like same thing we were doing here. But I was like, this is interesting. It's the same thing going on. People want community. They want places to engage one another, have discourse, all this good stuff. And I was like, man, I wonder why it's not popping off in the predominantly black, you know, economically challenged communities, right? Like, what's the deal on that? And did my research and found out, you know, like coffee is indigenous to Africa, right? And you know, Haiti's overthrow of their colonizers were really done caucusing in these coffee shops. I was like, man, we should have that in our community. So I said, let me get back here and write this executive summary called about an idea that I had conceptually. It was called Chronicle Coffee. Let me come back and write this up and open this coffee shop on the north side of St. Louis City, not county, but city.
Yep.
And so I did that at Page and Grand. Well, I wrote the executive summary. It wasn't that easy. I don't even want to make anybody out there who's aspiring to be.
Went to China, came back, wrote executive summary, opened successful business.
Done.
Yeah, I want to make sure that along the way it's been straight struggle. Like going to business school is a struggle. I mean, that was tough for me.
It's tough for me.
Yeah, it was. I'm around
for all of it. Were you working too at the same
time? Yeah, I was working. Just had a baby. Have a wife who's cold-blooded at her discipline. I mean, it's a lot going on, and there's a lot expected from me. You know what I'm saying? So none of this was easy. I'm just making it seem easy, or I just didn't even really think about it. I just like, I'm doing it.
You just had to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So I literally none of it was easy. Then writing the executive summary, that's a hard process. I sit down and write the idea.
You actually have to write more. Before you get to the executive summary part.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about it. You wrote iterations. So you had these ideas. You're writing stuff down. You think this is going to be good enough, but you present it to somebody. They're like, "Dog, I don't want to see this." Like, you got to put it in a format in which I can skim through it, extrapolate the details that I think are important to say whether or not we should push forward and put some numbers behind it.
Right.
So I was able to do that over time.
Okay.
Put some numbers behind it. My good buddy, I never even talk about his name, man. Jason Price, his dad, David Price, who's now my buddy, was like, yo, you got something. I'm going to mess with you on it. And so we put our heads together, put some money up, and we cash only, and opened up that coffee shop on the north side. So shout out to
it was a beautiful coffee shop.
Yes, absolutely. So
contemporary, very
It was upscale. It was nice, man. It was phenomenal. So shout out to Dave Price and Jason Price and Joyce Price for showing love to their, I'm not biological, man, but I'm their son. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They treat me like one.
But it takes community.
Yeah, it does. So they showed a lot of love on that. And we tried to put it out there. I wanted to show, so my goal was to show folks that you can control the narrative. Like you got to, but what it takes other African Americans to step up to the plate. And I'm not trying to diss anybody.
No,
because
real truth.
But it comes off as a diss. I know it does, but I'm whatever.
It's true.
I can battle on this. So, but we get a little bit of money. We get a little bit of social economic capital. Our little place in life, and we start feeling like we arrived. And it's like, but then Starbucks happens, right, in Philadelphia, and you're reminded.
Absolutely.
That you know everybody that's liberal, their liberalism isn't as radical as yours, right? So things like that happen. And you're reminded. It's always a rude awakening. So my thought is I'm like, look, man, I'm gonna step it up. I think I can get people to do this, to follow me into the community and open up companies and create economics, right? Create a tax base. So we're not having to go so hard on the state to give us money for our education.
Exactly.
Right? So it failed miserably, though. I mean, after 2 years, we never really were profitable down there. It was straight bleeding me to death. But I was like, we gonna make this money.
But what were some of the life lessons that you learned? And I think that the connections that you made too, because you had people coming in there doing stuff, meeting and things like that. What were some of the lessons that you learned from that failure?
Well, a couple things. I learned some personal lessons. Like one is, I always had an affinity for the city of St. Louis, like that. But I mean, like in particular, I'm just calling out streets, man, like Cass, like St. Louis Avenue, like. I always had an affinity for all these streets over there.
And for people who are listeners that are national or international listeners, these are streets that are in the heart of the African American community.
They're North
here
St.
in
Louis. They have a remarkable history, but are economically struggling for most of the last 30 years.
You name it.
Yes.
So, Ashland School, all those places, man, like Gunlock, all these places were like phenomenal to me because it was like, this is what I heard my mother talking about on the phone at nighttime. Talking to her colleagues, when she's doing her little bit of diatribe about how frustrated she is about the school system, because she was a teacher for an educator for 41 years, in which 21 years she was the principal. So I used to hear all these places. I was like, I can't wait to see these places. And DSEC had just hit, so I got more black friends. You know what I'm saying? And that was an acclimating process. But long story short about that, I wanted to inspire folks.
You wanted to impact
those
communities.
Let's go over here and make it happen. And but everyone isn't gung-ho like I am. People are risk adverse. We're just coming out of 2012, 2010, so this is 12. So it was a little bit gun shy on doing anything because, in the black community especially, getting money, you don't really want to give it away. You can't be risky because what I call the get back. So you fall and the get back to where it's square one. Is freaking tough at 40, 50 years old.
Right.
So somebody else might call that something different. I call it the get back, like to fall out of control. You lose your house or you almost lost your
Those are
downside.
Real things, exactly.
And the fall's farther. For some folks, the fall is one step back, and the same thing that happens to someone else, that's 5 steps back.
And there's no safety
a domino
nets.
effect, right? Because your whole entire family's halfway.
Yes.
Because look, the black family, the black community, and some black folks are going to listen to this and be like, man, he ain't talking about me. That ain't me. I come from a wealthy family. Well, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the majority of us, right? So a lot of us, first generation wealth or second generation, but you got cousins and family members who don't have that money. That's right. So what ends up happening is you've been showing love to them too, breaking them off with jobs, breaking them off with cash here and there to get pay a couple bills, and that sustains the nucleus, right?
Right.
So they're not as risky. So no one really wanted to follow me into there like that.
Right.
There were people already there doing stuff, but like on a for-profit tip, like that wasn't happening. I'm for profit. I'm not for the non-profit game.
Right.
For profit.
Right.
That's what needs to happen.
So that was a big life learning lesson for you.
Yeah. It just solidified my position on like. And you can talk me down off my pedestal on this, man, but like nonprofit for the black community has been sort of a disservice because you can't make profit with that.
Well, as my friend sitting next to me always says, nonprofit is a tax strategy.
It's a tax status, not a business model.
It is not a business model.
But also as a method for creating, if you've been listening, we've had other conversations too where we've talked about can economic development really come from a nonprofit sector that is primarily focused on social service. There are roles for all these organizations in our communities. And as we look at economic development, as we look at the ability to create generational wealth, personal wealth, there have to be different strategies employed, and for-profit has to play a role in that mix. So,
absolutely.
You think about the county, right? So like the county in St. Louis, is flush with cash, right?
Right.
It's not everywhere.
Because not everywhere is flush with cash.
Pine Lawn is, I think, is a county, right? That's not necessarily flush with cash, but it's part of the county. But the point I'm trying to make is that in these affluent communities, it's a balance. They have a lot of cash being created through for-profits, businesses, organizations. And then they got a few nonprofits to support the community, right? The issues that are plaguing the community.
We usually have it flipped in our community.
Yeah, we're like 80-20.
Right.
On the nonprofit side.
Right.
I was just going to say we're going to talk more about the flip in just a second.
When we come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
BioSTL is a proud founding sponsor of this entrepreneurially thinking podcast, and we want you to know all about the great things they are up to. BioSTL Fundamentals is an entrepreneur development program targeted to founders wishing to start a company in the bioscience space, including therapeutic products, diagnostic products, medical devices, animal and crop agriculture products, and research tools. Participants earn resources by achieving specific coaching goals. You can learn more about BioSTL Fundamentals by visiting biostl.org. And for your renewed and continuing support, BioSTL, we say thank you.
So Cheryl always likes to probe. So we probed deeply into car wash. We started to touch upon what it meant to go and launch Chronicle. But I feel like we've missed a little part of the story here.
Like the beginning.
So, because the beginning, but also, like even coming out of a successful business, but going through business school during the recession, coming out of the recession, starting a company in North St. Louis, as you said, not really being profitable for a while. So figuring out how to blend your vision with your business model. You could have just said, well, I'm going to go do something else entirely and not even continue on the entrepreneurial path. So what is some of that backstory we're missing about what put you
Jason.
In this space doing the work you do this way?
I'm a St. Louis guy, right? So I was born and raised in St. Louis, went to Parkway North High School. That doesn't really matter to anybody out there in the world outside of St. Louis.
But here it's important.
And it's got some whole other stuff attached to it, but I did go to Parkway North High School.
That's a public school here in St. Louis.
Yeah, grew up with a dad who was an entrepreneur.
There we go.
That's where that bug came from.
Right. And he also worked for people too, man. But he was an entrepreneur, and my mother was an educator. So I saw that where my mother was holding down the fort half the time, because sometimes we were up, sometimes we were down with my dad. That was tough. Up meaning he was doing really well. Money was coming in, great year. Then the next year, it's like, well, shucks, it sucks.
Right.
But good thing my mother was there.
She had
steady.
The full-time job, right.
Steady. Kind of like my household now. Shanti's the professor, is steady. Me, I'm up, down. All right.
You are.
So I'm born and raised in St. Louis. Got two boys, Jason and Julian, my little dudes, man, making them to be tigers. In their own right, they can do whatever they want to do.
Right. So you went to undergrad.
I went to undergrad at University of Houston, but I graduated from Texas Southern. just HBCU.
Yeah, there you go, HBCU. Proud.
Then got off into the working world. My undergrad and major were biochem. So I thought I was going to med school. Didn't really pop off like that. I wasn't really the smartest guy. And this goes to where I am now. Like, I'm not the smartest cat, but I hustle and I'm determined, resilient. I don't give up. I should
persistent.
Probably give up.
Yes.
I should probably give up sometimes. I just don't.
It's a fine line.
Yeah. I mean, you really should learn how to give up. I don't know how to give up sometimes.
We'll run a class on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Learning when to give up.
And yeah, so
you went to corporate too, right?
Yeah, I worked in corporate America. I worked for a company called, first it was the Red Cross, right, in Houston, Texas. I didn't get a med school, obviously, so Red Cross was my move.
Okay.
Right, so did that for a while. And then I went to the Gulf Coast Regional Blood Center, liaison there. That was really cool. I made blood transactions happen. That was my thing, linking people with corporations like Enron and the Blood Center, making sure that the city had a plethora,
enough supply.
Right. And then got laid off. 9/11. Boom. Got the cash from the severance. Started traveling. Came back, took the rest of the money to St. Louis. Started this company called Applied Pressure Washing. That's where it all came from.
All right.
And it wasn't a lot of money. I'm making it sound cool. Or am I?
Again, got the money, started the business,
right.
success, done. Boom. Executive summary, started it up, gone, boom, boom. All right.
Not at all. It's like
check.
It's like nah, right. No, it's just like that was just how kind of. I mean, I can tell you that I cried one night. Who cares? Well, no,
if there's not tears involved, it ain't for real.
Right.
Come on
That's
now.
right. And you're not a real entrepreneur.
And if you're not begging for forgiveness from your spouse at some point, it's not for real, right?
There you go.
So we've all been blessed by the patient, steady Eddie spouse.
Right.
I love you, Chris. Thank you, Chris.
And I love you too. Alan, I love you.
Shanti, we love you.
Right.
I love you. Because those were the folks who let us keep experimenting,
Exactly.
right? And can help us weather the ups and downs, both the financial and the emotional.
And they got insurance benefits.
Oh, God bless. Thank you. Because otherwise, none of this is possible.
I mean,
no matter how hard you hustle.
They're living vicariously through you too, because they probably want to do something entrepreneurial.
Yes.
But they also,
I like
they
to think that.
they go into school all these years, got the PhD game down, so it's like, they don't want to abandon what they're doing.
Well, we always tell our listeners and people that we mentor, hey, you don't have to pop off and just jump off and do this.
No, don't quit your
Don't
job.
do not quit your day job until you are comfortable, or unless you have a spouse or a significant other that can help balance that.
Right, or just money. There's a lot of money.
Or just money.
You just got to have money. You really just got. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, you got to have money.
Got to pay bills, baby.
Yeah. And so we're always talking about how do we find those ways to help people who don't necessarily have a lot of money sitting around still be able to explore entrepreneurship. So you had a really successful business, did grad school, did Chronicle, learned a lot. How did Northwest Coffee emerge out of that?
Well, so when I opened up Chronicle, the goal was to have a quality brand of coffee over there. You don't want just anybody. You don't want. I didn't want to really just like import some random coffee over there.
Right.
It wasn't mine, so I didn't have a lot of control over it. Right. That would be terrible.
You're an authentic person.
And
I
wanted
authentic.
Yeah, and I wanted Chronicle to be indigenous to that community.
Yes.
So Chronicle was nowhere else. It started right there on the north side, and the goal was to grow several of these across that community, and be a success, and then grow it to some other community. Right. So I bought Northwest Coffee.
Okay.
Right, and I started roasting, different coffees for this store. Same coffee, just slightly different. You wouldn't even know the difference half the time.
So you became your own supplier.
Yeah.
Initially, you were being your own supplier, so you could do quality control.
Right, and then Chronicle folks who go to Chronicle can say, the Chronicle Coffee. Jason Wilson, he roasts his own coffee in that community.
Got it.
So then it's like, I'm proud of that. It's kind of cool. It comes from my community. So I bought Northwest Coffee.
Okay.
And
this was after you shut down Chronicle.
No, this is all.
Chronicle was going on.
So while I'm writing this executive summary thing, then Northwest Coffee pops up. And then I said, well, this is the opportunity to purchase something and have this. So now we're not just
we're not just a retail space.
Yeah. We got revenue, right?
And it's in a different part of town.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're up the street here, right, in the city.
Yep. Which is Central West End.
Right, which is
affluent.
Right. Affluent place in the city. It's got a lot of history here. You get a chance to go check it out online, Google. And then of course, Clayton.
Right.
The Clayton store.
Which is another affluent
so
area.
I'm like, this is going to be pretty good. I can hold it down with this. So that's how I got the Northwest Coffee. And, it became really good. I have my buddy Kataro, who's a roaster there. He's been roasting in the game for a long time. Young guy named Zach, who had been working there since high school. Really smart kid, went to SIUE, 4 years. He's ready to graduate. But he stayed with me, and he went on a coffee farm last year. Took a hiatus from me and came back, worked with me again. And he believes in me. They believe in it. They believe we're going to grow the business.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so Northwest Coffee has been great to me. I've learned a lot with Northwest Coffee. And the goal was with Northwest is to grow that business too.
Okay.
The good thing is I'm in coffee. The downside is I'm one of the first African Americans to roast coffee at this scale.
Right.
Wow.
But it's not, who wants to be that? Because it's a lot. You're always the first to fail, right? Right, or whatever.
So what hurdle what does it mean to be the first African American roasting coffee at this scale?
I mean, it doesn't really mean anything, honestly. It just means
good coffee.
Here's what it means. It means that other black folks.
That's what I was going to say.
Can look at it, and white folks. Everybody can say, okay, these guys are playing in a different space. It's not just either corporate America or predominantly in some service industry, right? They're doing other stuff,
right?
And that's what I think was so important for you to discount, to say, oh, it doesn't mean anything. Jason, you are a role model for a lot of people who never thought about a particular industry I can do this. Because when you look at the models that are out there, Starbucks,
Right.
and you look at Caldi's, you look at some of these other models, it's not African-American people of African-American descent that are doing these entities. So you're giving people, I think, inspiration in the community to say, hey, he did a coffee shop. Hey, I could think about doing something else that might not be traditional to the type of businesses that we normally get into.
No, that's true. That's true. And so people are probably, I guarantee people, I know for a fact, I know some folks that are doing some things that are different now.
So how did you got into, which is very successful. If you guys haven't been to either the Clayton one or the one here in the West End, great coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, but great lattes, just a great chai, environment great for people to just drop in. If you want to connect with the individuals, I think it's a great opportunity. And now you're into the educational. You parlayed that into interest in becoming a board member on a board that has been predominantly a white board in a community that is predominantly a white community with a sprinkling of some of our kids of color in there. What made you decide to run for a board seat?
A couple things. One, my son, Jason, was disparaged with some racial remarks when he was in third grade. I was like, how are we going to deal with this? So I went to the principal and they didn't really, to me, I felt like a heated parent, very frustrated, heated parent. Felt like it wasn't being dealt with very well.
You weren't listened to. You didn't feel like you were listened to.
But they were probably doing a good job. I was just upset, probably. So I wanted to, I wanted there to be a way for us to deal with stuff like that, have these conversations that are tough. And the second thing was just looking at the makeup of the board, and then also the school itself. Like there's my son, Jason and Julian probably could go through the whole entire, go through Captain Elementary, go through elementary school, go through maybe even middle school, without even seeing a black teacher. And I was like, dang, the white kids too, and kids of color of different ethnicities are going through these school levels and never seen anybody black. So how do you have respect for somebody like that? Like, how do you have respect for your boss who's black and you never had a black teacher?
Right.
Or how do you even, as a child in those type of environments, how do you feel comfortable going to somebody that doesn't have the shared experience that you might have, especially if you have issues?
Right. On both sides of the fence, right? It's like, so I was like, I think there needs to be, some diversity and a holistic approach to the process in the school system.
So you decided, what made you decide, I'm going to run for a board seat?
Well, a buddy of mine mentioned it to me. He was like, man, you should run.
And then he wrote an executive summary, and then it was over.
Right.
We established this already?
This is about how it happened. You should run. And I was already kind of thinking about, how do I get involved? Like, how do I have an effect on this idea of change? So I talked to Shanti. This happened all in November, right?
This is recent, everyone.
Yeah, this is all November 2017. Jason, you should run. Maybe I'll think about it. Get in the car, drive off, listen to some Nipsey Hussle. and then get home, and I tell Shanti, what do you think should I run for the board? She's like, yeah, I think you'd be great on it. And then she's like, you got time? I was like, not really.
But don't forget to grow that business.
Right.
I'm going to go and get us some health insurance. Bye-bye.
Right. So we thought about it. We pondered for a while, went through the process of thinking through the process of what it looks like. And then I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I had, you have no idea whether you're going to win or not. I have no idea, man. I'm in a place that I got my own insecurities and my own perspectives about a lot of stuff, So
and this is a whole new thing.
Right.
You're talking about politics now, jumping into a whole different. This is not running a business. It's something totally different.
But it goes back to this idea, like, man, like there's no black folks on this board ever,
right?
In a community that used to be have a plethora of African Americans living in it,
right?
That were displaced, for whatever reason, like. Come on, man, it's crazy. Like never ran.
Never.
Like all these rich folks that I know had money never ran.
Oh my gosh.
So I was like, let me run. I'm not rich at all. At all. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, let me just hop on here and run. So I ran. And my platform was, a holistic approach to diversity, innovative and academic excellence, but really focusing on teacher efficacy, trying to make sure that we're supporting the teachers so they can be creative and establish relationship with these kids in the classroom who are in the far corners of the classroom.
Yes.
That have needs that aren't being met because they're not in the middle. But bring them in, establish a relationship, and push them to the top academically. And then the last was like, community relationships and partnerships, right? Really establishing a relationship with and partnerships with the community so that we can grow and we have a seat at the table and people are bringing us ideas so that we can capitalize on it so our kids are getting the best in terms of in a practicum sense.
So I'm interested, how were you received when you first put your feelers out there about running for this office? What was some of the feedback?
Some of my good folk, man, were well, number one, I think people were excited.
Oh,
I had
most
to be
definitely.
honest. They were excited about it. They were definitely excited about it. Then the platform had to kick in. So the idea, Jason's running, that's my boy. He coaches basketball and baseball. We know him. He's a good coach. He's fun to hang out with. And then it was like, what's the platform? And then it was like diversity. Then people get hung up on diversity.
Because that means different things to different people. It can be scary.
Right.
For a lot of people.
People got a little bit, they were a little bit nervous about it. For me, A, because it could hurt, it could affect me, right? And B, like, how does it make them feel that Jason, and because they have a perspective too about like, or an idea of what diversity means in the black community, or what does it mean to Jason, or what does it mean in general.
Right.
So there's a lot of unknowns there because no one's discussing these things.
And it's going to disrupt the status quo
Absolutely.
any way you look at it, right? Because,
right.
as you said, nobody's talking about it.
Right, exactly.
And there's no representation. So the status quo is going to change for everybody, no matter what.
Exactly.
And did you ever think about how does that impact, I'm running for this board. I got a new business. I got business in these communities.
Right,
How is that going to impact my business?
People could say he's running because he's running just to get more business or something like that.
That's a really bad strategy for business development. I'm just saying.
It is. It is. Because it's politics. At the end of the day, it's not. It's a school board, but people, it is politics.
If you find a way to leverage a school board membership into more business, you let me know because we're writing that book.
Right. Exactly.
Here, now take all your spare time, put it into civic engagement, and try to leverage that to sell more coffee.
But I think that it could have been very negative if because like you talked about, diversity and inclusion can be very scary to a lot of people.
Well, pushing the status quo is scary. If he's the first
status quo,
not only the first African American man to be roasting coffee at this scale, and then the first African American man to serve on the school board.
Exactly.
Right.
And this all goes back to you controlling your narrative.
Yes.
Exactly.
Right? Writing. I feel like you're writing yourself into places where you did not see yourself prior to that, and others did not see you prior to this, and you've written yourself into the story in a new place in a new way.
Right. I mean, you got to find out. You got to know how to. This is a cliche. Get in where you can fit in, right? And so I saw an avenue. I'm gonna get in here. I'm gonna have effect change. At allegedly the number one school district in the state, number 4 in the nation. Like I want to get in there, and everyone, all eyes on us, right? So why are we just kind of better? Let's just be phenomenal,
right?
Right, head and shoulders above the rest, so that we can learn from folks that are doing great, and they can learn from us, right? And make it even better. And then if we're doing good, then all tides rise. Now, St. Louis is looking phenomenal across the board when it comes to like people wanting to move their businesses here because they know that the education level all across the board is phenomenal. Not just in Clayton, not just, so that's kind of my modus operandi.
So what do people have said about you? Now that you have won, congratulations.
Right.
That's a phenomenal accomplishment.
Right.
What are people coming to you now that you're a board member talking to you about?
Just thank you, and now you got your work cut out. Thanks
Good luck,
a lot.
my friend.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like I'm proud of you. I'm happy. that it couldn't have been anybody better for the first time. I'm like, man, this other cat, he could have been better than me. Or my wife would have been, she would have killed it. And I don't mean kill, I mean killed.
Killed it. That's
killed
right.
it. She would have killed it.
But this goes back to hearkening why it's all is coming full circle to, you started Chronicle in an impoverished area of our city, right? Mm-hmm. And it was all about community. Right. And being interested in what's going on in that community and seeing it spread. Now you're taking that same, I think, enthusiasm with you. It's still community. It's just in our educational system and understanding how can we impact that piece of our community to be, like you say, stellar, right? And be inclusive and diversified as well.
Right. Well, I mean, we gotta start by changing our how we communicate what we stand for and what we do. Mm-hmm. Like this idea of letting people into our school system. Like, you're not letting anybody in the school system. Right. Like, it's not. Stop talking like that. Right. It's not that. Mm-hmm.
That is so key. Language.
Right. And then the challenge of saying you gotta be competitive. I'm competitive, as you can see. So I'm thinking in my mind, how many kids can we make from, and what's this achievement gap? How are we gonna close the achievement gap? Like, I mean, that's what I'm thinking. Right. I want to close it. Like that's my goal. I'm closing the achievement gap. We doing it. They say we can't do it. We closing it. How many National Merit Scholars are there that are black? Like 3%? Like, no, we going 15. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like 15%. That's our goal. I mean, I don't understand why that's not the goal.
Changing the narrative.
I just don't understand why people don't have the same thought process, or maybe they do, and it's like it's not translating. I don't understand. I don't know. I'm gonna find out. Maybe I'll check me back in 3 years and be like, well, how's it going? Man.
But I think you're doing all the right stuff. You are pushing the envelope, which you've always done.
Well, I do look forward to checking back in with you. Yes. And seeing where the narrative has gone, where it continues to go. As we wrap up our time together, any last thoughts you'd like to have for those folks listening about finding your place?
Yeah, well, to anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur. So in general, and then in particular black folk, but I'm just saying in general, right? This is a general point. I don't recommend it for everybody. Yes. I have to say, it's not for everybody. No, and what happens is we get in our silos, or we get in our spaces where we're feeling ourselves. Someone's asking us for advice, and we start saying it. And we're being irresponsible by saying, yeah, man, you should do this. Yeah, you gotta be like, sometimes you gotta be like, well, and deal with the realities. I'd rather tell you now than you squander 150, 200 grand in a house and a car and a wife. Right. Or vice versa, or a spouse, or some kind of, whatever.
Any combination thereof.
Right. So, and then in particular, African Americans, like, you gotta understand, man, like, you have to look around you. How many businesses are really making it out there? Really making millions of dollars? It's just not a lot. Right. I mean, we know some. We read about the ones that are.
Sure.
But I'm sorry, it just is not a lot. So there's a lot of anxiety, tough nights, failures. I mean, sometimes people come out on the upper end because someone sees that there was some great stuff with that person. Then they hire them on. They can get like some equity in the company. That's cool. That's a great land. It's not owning the whole company, but you got some equity. Right. Someone saw value in that.
And I think that's what's key, because when we talk about this, just like you said, entrepreneurship is not for everybody, but you can be in the game in different ways. Right. You can work in a startup, you can mentor in a startup, you can provide your expertise, but everybody is not meant to be an entrepreneur. Right.
And then last but not least is like, I'm sitting here saying this to you right now. Someone's listening, but don't take no for an answer either. But you got. People have to be honest with you. You got to be honest with yourself. Like, is that a good move for me? Because sometimes it's just not a good move, and it's very, very, extremely difficult. It's hard to get cash. It's hard to get money. It's hard to get people to invest in you and all the way invest. Not like, here's a few dollars to get you by. Like, you need to be. We don't need 100. We need 1 million. 100 won't do it. And you gotta understand, like, they're thinking like, why would I invest in this guy or this woman or this in non-gender conforming whatever? Right? Why would I invest when there aren't a lot of successes out there?
Right. where there's a lot more known quantities
Right.
of these people who look like me and are more similar to me.
Right.
And that's because as risky as folks like to think investors and entrepreneurs are, they're really risk averse.
They really are.
They're about making money.
Right. They're like, I'm looking at the spreadsheets. I know who this guy is. I know their connections. I see where the place they can play in. I see where they came from. They came out of that space probably. We'll drop $1 million. We'll drop $2 million. That's a different story.
Right.
Than someone like like myself who is competitive, who has a little bit of corporate experience, who thinks he can go out there and save the world. Like I'm probably a bad investment early on.
Right.
Now I'm probably cool.
Right.
Like invest me now, but like early on, I'm the worst kind of investment because I'm like, you don't know what's going to happen.
But I think what you related to our listeners here is that, you know what, you do have to know when to say when, but you can't let people kill your dream either. Because sometimes you just have to go out there, learn as much as you can, look at some of the, like you did, some of the signs and the writings on the wall, know how to move your business in different aspects. And I think what's also good is connecting with people who can, like with David, right, who can be great assets to you. Because not everybody is, like you say, going to jump out there and invest in you. But if you're a true entrepreneur, if you are somebody who really wants to make it happen, you're going to figure out how to make it happen.
I agree.
So,
Jason, thank you so much for making time to be with us.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Having
Absolutely.
a conversation and challenge us to think differently. We really appreciate making time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Changing the way you view new ventures, igniting your thinking about entrepreneurship. It's entrepreneurially thinking. Get connected and discover more. Visit our website for show notes, resources, information about our guests, upcoming events, and of course, all your favorite episodes. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them for us in the comment sections, and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The best way to show love is to share. Let everybody know that you're thinking entrepreneurially. So visit our website, entrepreneuriallythinking.com. #ETHINKSTL. Entrepreneurially Thinking is another positive production of Rare Gem Productions. Thanks for listening.